The crystalline ships appeared on a Tuesday morning, their translucent hulls refracting sunlight across New York's smog-filled sky. Nobody panicked. After 3 years of global economic collapse, widespread famine, and devastating climate disasters, humanity had exhausted its capacity for fear. Instead, millions watched their screens with desperate hope as the alien vessels settled into orbit like falling stars. President Matthews stood at the United Nations podium, her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted the microphone. The Zarkak's representative, Ambassador Valen, towered beside her, its iridescent scales shifting colors in the harsh camera lights. 7 feet tall, with 4 arms and eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom, the alien cut an impressive figure against the human backdrop. "Today marks the dawn of a new era," Matthews declared, her voice steady despite her shaking hands. "The Zarkak's Imperium has offered us salvation from our current crisis. Their advanced technology will help us reverse climate change, end food shortages, and stabilize our global economy." In the crowd, Dr. Robert Anderson watched with growing unease. As lead physicist at CERN, he'd spent the last week analyzing the preliminary data from the alien ships. Something about their energy signatures didn't match their supposedly peaceful intentions, but his warnings had been dismissed by officials desperate for solutions. The integration began immediately. Zarkak's aid stations appeared in major cities, offering miracle cures and food synthesizers. Their atmospheric processors, massive crystalline towers that stretched into the clouds, began cleaning Earth's polluted air. Global markets stabilized as alien technology offered solutions to energy scarcity. Few noticed when the first military installations went dark. Jennifer Martinez, a Marine Corps captain stationed at Quantico, was among the first to recognize the pattern. Training exercises were canceled. Equipment was collected for compatibility upgrades. Weapons were systematically replaced with Zarkak's alternatives that somehow never quite worked properly during crisis responses. "They're neutering us," she argued in a classified briefing. "Every piece of tech they give us comes with strings attached." Her superiors nodded sympathetically, but pointed to the greater good. How could they question their saviors when child mortality had dropped by 60% in just 3 months? The changes accelerated. Zarkak's advisory teams integrated into government structures worldwide. Their suggestions, always reasonable, always backed by impressive data, became increasingly difficult to refuse. Earth's industries were optimized under alien supervision. Resource extraction operations expanded, with humans invited to participate in what was quietly becoming mandatory labor. 6 months after first contact, Dr. Anderson disappeared from his Geneva apartment. The official statement cited his acceptance of a prestigious research position in a Zarkak's facility. His colleague, Dr. Emily Richardson, found his private lab in disarray, his computer wiped clean. On his desk, a single handwritten note remained. "The price of salvation is too high." By month 8, the chains became visible to everyone, but it was too late. Earth's military capabilities had been quietly dismantled. The Zarkak's atmospheric processors, celebrated for cleaning the air, now carried chemical compounds that made mass resistance physically impossible. The food synthesizers had created dependency. Traditional agriculture had been phased out for efficiency. Captain Martinez, watching from the underground bunker she'd secretly maintained, saw the final phase begin. The Zarkak's dropped all pretense. Labor camps, officially called resource management centers, rose from the ruins of major industrial areas. Humanity, stripped of its defenses and addicted to alien technology, could only watch as their saviors revealed themselves as conquerors. 1 year after those crystalline ships first appeared, Earth had become just another mining world in the vast Zarkak's Imperium. President Matthews, now a puppet governor, announced the transition with the same steady voice she'd used to welcome them. But this time, her hands didn't shake. They were perfectly still, controlled by the neural implant all government officials now voluntarily accepted. In the darkness of an abandoned subway tunnel beneath New York, Jennifer Martinez clutched Robert Anderson's note, found in a data burst before communications went dark. She watched through a cracked tablet as humanity's chains were locked into place. Above her, the crystalline ships no longer looked like falling stars. They looked like what they'd always been, the bars of a prison built from humanity's own desperation. The conquest was complete, and it had happened without a single shot being fired. Humanity had traded their freedom for salvation, and only too late did they realize the true cost of that bargain. Dr. Emily Richardson's hands trembled as she stared at the quantum interface readout. After 20 years of working in the Zarkak's orbital research facility, she'd learned to suppress her emotions. Survival meant becoming a machine. But this was different. The neural patterns flowing across her screen shouldn't have been possible. Dr. Richardson, the harsh voice of her Zarkak supervisor, scientific overseer, Kelvax, echoed through the lab. Your shift ended 6 minutes ago. Emily quickly switched displays, hiding the anomalous readings. Apologies, overseer. Just finishing documentation on the quantum stability tests. The tall alien scales rippled with skepticism, 4 arms crossing in a gesture she'd learned meant disapproval. Humans and their inefficient attention to detail. The next shift arrives in 3 minutes. Clear your station. She gathered her approved personal items, a photo of her family, actually resistance contacts, standard rations, and her ID chip. As she passed through the security scanner, her heart raced. The data crystal hidden in her sleeve, pressed against the scar from her mandatory tracking implant, felt like it was burning. In her tiny quarters, designated Human Specialist Housing Unit 247, Emily finally allowed herself to breathe. She inserted the crystal into her personal console, officially for continuing education, actually modified by Dr. Michael Hayes during his maintenance rounds. The data confirmed her discovery. Human brainwave patterns, when properly aligned, could interface with Zarkak's quantum systems at a level their creators never imagined possible. It wasn't just access, it was control. A soft knock interrupted her analysis. Maintenance check, a familiar voice called. Michael Hayes entered, his maintenance uniform bearing the marks of genuine work. They'd learned early that the best way to hide was to actually do your job well. The usual audio dampeners? Emily asked, keeping to their script. Standard protocol. Michael activated the sonic interference device, disguised as routine equipment. Tell me you found something worth risking our necks over. She showed him the data. Michael's expression shifted from skepticism to wonder. This changes everything. But how did you even think to test this? Remember Anderson's note. The price of salvation is too high. It was encoded. Basic ASCII shifted 3 spaces. Hidden in it were his final research notes. He found the first hints of this, but couldn't confirm it before they took him. Michael ran his hands through his graying hair. If we can interface with their systems directly, Emily, we could actually fight back. But we'd need test subjects, ways to practice without detection. A warning light flashed. Someone approaching. They smoothly transitioned to maintenance procedures as the door opened. Lieutenant Kate Martinez, recently promoted to internal security, stood in the doorway. Emily's heart sank. Kate had been aggressively loyal to the Zarkaks since receiving her command enhancement implant. Routine inspection, Kate announced, her voice flat. But as soon as the door closed, her rigid posture relaxed. The dampeners are up. Good. We need to talk. Emily and Michael froze. Kate touched her temple, where the implant sat. Anderson's team did more than research neural interfaces. Some of us in security were part of his program. The implants. They don't control us like the Zarkaks think. They just make us look controlled. She pulled up her sleeve, revealing a familiar scar pattern. There's a resistance network, hidden in plain sight. Anderson knew the Zarkaks would eventually force their technology on all key personnel. He found a way to subvert it, but needed to disappear to protect the discovery. We've been waiting, gathering intelligence, preparing for someone to find what you just found. Emily's mind raced with possibilities. The labor camps. If we could teach the workers to interface with the mining equipment. Exactly, Kate nodded. But we need to move carefully. One mistake, and the Zarkax will realize their perfect control system isn't so perfect. Michael pulled out his tablet, officially for maintenance logs. We'll need a way to identify potential candidates, test them safely. Already handled, Kate smiled. Why do you think you two are on the same maintenance rotation? We've been positioning people for years. Now we just need to wait for the right moment. As if in answer, the facility's lights flickered, a common occurrence as Earth's overtaxed power grid struggled to meet Zarkax's demands. But this time, Emily saw it differently. Every system failure was an opportunity. Every malfunction, a chance to test their discovery. In the darkness, she caught Kate's knowing smile. The hidden spark of resistance, carefully preserved for 20 years, had finally found its fuel. The real question was, how long could they keep the fire contained before setting the whole system ablaze? Jason Cooper wiped sweat from his brow as he guided his mining droid through the titanium-rich asteroid belt of Sector 7. 20-hour shifts were standard now. The Zarkax quota system didn't account for human fatigue. But tonight was different. Tonight, he wasn't just surviving. He was practicing. Mental connection established, whispered the small earpiece Dr. Richardson's group had smuggled to him. Remember, just like we trained. Visualize the neural pathway. Jason closed his eyes, feeling for that strange sensation they'd described. The subtle hum where human consciousness met alien technology. The mining droid's controls suddenly felt less like cold metal and more like an extension of his own body. Cooper. The harsh voice of his overseer crackled through the official comm. Your efficiency has dropped 3.8% in the last hour. Return to standard operations or face reconditioning. Yes, overseer. Adjusting patterns now. Jason kept his voice flat, submissive, the tone of a broken man. Below in the darkness of the asteroid field, his droid made an almost imperceptible course correction. 3 months of nightly practice sessions had taught him patience. The Resistance's underground training network, spreading through whispered conversations and hidden data crystals, emphasized subtlety over speed. The Zarkax expect equipment failures, his trainer had said. They don't expect sophistication. In the cramped barracks each night, miners practiced on smuggled interface chips. They learned to feel the difference between simple control and true neural connection. Those who showed promise were connected to the wider network, their names added to encrypted databases maintained by Lieutenant Martinez's security team. The revolution spread through the ranks like a slow-burning fire. Maintenance workers learned to mask their sabotage as routine wear. Medical staff modified mandatory scans to hide the neural training's effects on human brains. Even the food distribution AI was subtly altered, ensuring extra rations reached key resistance members. Jason's moment came during the third shift of a standard mining operation. A priority alert flashed across all channels. A rich platinum deposit had been detected in an unstable asteroid cluster. The Zarkax, ever greedy, immediately diverted 3 mining teams to the area. This is our chance, Jason subvocalized into his hidden comm. Position confirmed. He felt the neural connection deepen as he extended his consciousness into the mining fleet's network. Dozens of other trained miners did the same, each taking control of a small part of the operation. To the Zarkax observers, it looked like a normal, if ambitious, mining expedition. The first explosion took out the asteroid cluster's largest mass, sending fragments spinning through carefully calculated trajectories. Mining droids, moving with impossible precision, began to fail in specific ways. Some lost pressure regulation. Others suffered navigation errors. Each failure forced the Zarkax to redirect resources, creating gaps in their coverage. Alert status initiated. The overseer's voice boomed. All units returned to base for emergency maintenance. But the mining droids didn't respond. Instead, they continued their intricate dance through the debris field, each movement causing more chaos. Supply chains tangled, automated loading systems jammed. The carefully orchestrated efficiency of the Zarkax mining operation collapsed into calculated disorder. Jason fought to keep his expression neutral as reports flooded in. Sector 7's productivity had dropped to zero. The Zarkax supervisors were panicking, unable to understand how their foolproof systems had failed so completely. "It's beautiful," Dr. Hayes whispered through the secure channel. "They're so convinced of their technological superiority, they can't imagine we're causing this." The aftermath brought increased security, of course. The Zarkax installed new monitoring systems, ran endless diagnostics. But they never found the true cause. How could they? They were looking for mechanical failures, not the quiet determination in every miner's eyes. The success in Sector 7 became a template. Across Earth's solar system, carefully coordinated accidents began to plague Zarkax operations. Production quotas, once met with ruthless efficiency, became increasingly difficult to achieve. Equipment failures cascaded through the system, each one masking the growing strength of the resistance. In his bunk that night, Jason allowed himself a small smile. The Zarkax had taught humanity to be efficient, productive slaves. Instead, they had created an army of civil revolutionaries, each failure bringing them one step closer to freedom. The neural revolution had begun, and their oppressors didn't even know they were at war. Commander Alexandra Foster stood in the observation dome of Mining Station Echo 19, watching the endless dance of automated mining vessels through the asteroid belt. To any Zarkax observer, she was simply performing her duties as a human supervisor. Another broken military officer repurposed for their empire. They never questioned why she requested the night shift, or why she spent so many hours studying fleet movements. Status report. She subvocalized, her neural implant carrying the message through encrypted channels. Ice Processing Station Delta reports another successful conversion. Thomas Walker's voice whispered in her mind. 30 more units of crystallized plasma fuel stored in the hollow asteroids. We're ahead of schedule. Alexandra allowed herself a small smile. For 3 months, they'd been quietly transforming ice mining operations into fuel production facilities. The Zarkax, focused on precious metals and rare earth elements, paid little attention to the inefficient ice mining sector. Their mistake. "Commander," a new voice cut in. Dr. Hayes from the Orbital Research Facility. "The latest batch of mining drones is ready. Emily's modifications exceeded expectations. They're transforming faster than we projected." On her display, Alexandra pulled up the diagnostic feeds. Hundreds of mining drones moved through the belt, their patterns appearing random to untrained eyes. But she saw the truth. Each movement was part of an intricate ballet, positioning resources and modified units exactly where they needed to be. "Show me the Helios array," she commanded. The display shifted to a cluster of asteroids near the belt's outer edge. Inside their hollow cores, transformed mining drones were assembling something unprecedented, hybrid vessels combining Zarkax technology with human innovation. Dr. Richardson's neural interface discoveries had allowed them to completely rewrite the drone's operational coding. "Weapon systems integration at 87%, Thomas reported. "The crystalline matrix accepts human neural patterns better than we expected. These ships won't just be controlled by us. They'll be extensions of human consciousness." A warning light flashed. Zarkax patrol approaching. Alexandra smoothly switched her displays to standard mining operations. The alien vessel passed without incident, its crew never imagining that their supposedly primitive slaves were building a fleet right under their noses. Time for a test, Alexandra decided. Initiate Protocol Shadow Dance. Across the asteroid belt, dozens of modified drones simultaneously created small malfunctions in their sensor arrays. As the Zarkax monitoring systems automatically compensated, tiny blind spots appeared in their coverage. In these shadows, other drones moved with precision, transporting components and fuel to the hidden shipyards. "Commander," Lieutenant Martinez's voice joined the neural network. "Security systems are adapting to our sensor gaps quicker than before. They're learning." "Good," Alexandra replied. "Let them think they're winning. Every security patch, every system upgrade makes them more confident in their superiority. They're so busy looking for big threats, they can't see the small ones adding up." She turned her attention to the latest project, a captured Zarkak scout ship, officially listed as lost in an asteroid collision. In reality, it was deep inside an ice asteroid, being studied and replicated by former human engineers. Each discovery about their oppressors' technology brought them closer to freedom. "Final report from the Ghost Fleet," Thomas announced. 217 vessels operational, another 300 in final stages of conversion. All crews trained in neural interface combat protocols. Alexandra remembered her days commanding Earth's naval forces before the invasion. The Zarkaks had stripped her of rank, of purpose, thinking they'd broken her spirit. Instead, they'd helped create something new, a commander who understood both human determination and alien technology. "Send word through the network," she ordered. "Accelerate production but maintain cover. The Zarkak's millennial celebration approaches, and we'll only get one chance at this." As she spoke, a maintenance drone passed her observation dome. Like everything else in their growing revolution, it wasn't what it seemed. Inside its humble exterior lay weapons systems that could cripple a Zarkak's cruiser. Humanity had learned to hide its strength in plain sight, building an arsenal from the very tools of their oppression. "They think they stripped us of our military," Alexandra thought, watching her hidden fleet continue its secret preparations. "Instead, they taught us how to turn their own technology against them. Every mining drone they gave us became a fighter. Every neural control implant became a weapon. And soon, they'll learn what happens when you give your slaves the keys to your empire." The Zarkak's millennial celebration filled Earth's orbit with crystalline ships, their hulls shimmering with ceremonial lights. Admiral Krull stood on his flagship's observation deck, watching the display with satisfaction. 1,000 years of imperial dominance, and Earth, their most recent acquisition, would host the grandest celebration yet. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" Lieutenant Kate Martinez stood at attention beside him, her neural implant glowing with the proper compliance indicators. "Humanity is honored to host such an historic event." Krell's scales rippled with amusement. "Your species has proven surprisingly adaptable. Perhaps in another 1,000 years, you'll earn true citizenship in the Empire." In the Orbital Research Lab, Dr. Emily Richardson watched the celebration preparations through glass windows. Her hands moved across control panels, performing routine diagnostics that weren't routine at all. Each keystroke sent coded instructions through the neural network, coordinating with resistance cells worldwide. "Final checks complete," she subvocalized. "Ghost Fleet in position. All neural interfaces synchronized." Commander Alexandra Foster's voice whispered back through the network. "Commence Operation Shadowfall. All units execute on my mark." The celebration began with a grand display of Zarkak's power, their ships forming complex geometric patterns in orbit, energy beams painting the sky in impossible colors. On the surface, millions of humans watched through mandated viewing screens, their faces properly reverent. None of the Zarkaks noticed the subtle tension in their postures, the anticipation in their eyes. Mark. The revolution began with silence. Across Earth, security systems quietly died. Detention center force fields evaporated. Automated defense turrets went dark. The Zarkaks, absorbed in their celebration, dismissed the first warnings as minor glitches. Then Jason Cooper, deep in the asteroid mines, initiated his part. Hundreds of mining drones suddenly broke formation, their humble exteriors sliding away to reveal weapons arrays. The Ghost Fleet emerged from its hiding places, human consciousness flowing through neural interfaces to guide each ship with impossible precision. Admiral Krell's first warning was Lieutenant Martinez's smile. 1,000 years is too long to wait, she said, her implant's compliance indicators shifting from submission to battle-ready. Around him, the bridge erupted in chaos as human crew members seized control through their neural interfaces. Impossible. Krell reached for emergency controls, but they didn't respond. On every screen, the same message flashed. Human in URL, OVE Aride Active. Commander Foster's voice boomed through all channels. For 20 years, you thought you were teaching us to be better slaves. Instead, you taught us to be better warriors. Today, humanity takes back its freedom. The orbital defense grid, pride of Zarkak's military engineering, turned its weapons on the Celebration fleet. Ships commanded by neural-linked humans struck from the asteroid belt, their hybrid technology confusing Zarkak's targeting systems. Each vessel moved with the fluidity of human thought, outmaneuvering the rigid protocols of their former masters. On Earth's surface, the revolution unfolded with similar precision. Dr. Hayes activated the hidden protocols in every neural implant, transforming tools of control into weapons of liberation. Security forces found themselves locked out of their own systems. Mining machines became assault vehicles. Even the atmospheric processors, once used to subdue the population, now emitted compounds that cleared mines instead of clouding them. Their automated systems are adapting. Dr. Richardson's voice cut through the neural network, implementing countermeasures now. The battle for Earth's orbit became a contest of evolution, Zarkak's eye struggling to counter human intuition and creativity. But the humans had prepared for this, their neural interfaces allowing them to react faster than any computer. Admiral Krell watched in horror as his celebration became a rout. The supposedly primitive humans wielded his empire's technology with devastating effectiveness. Worse, they showed a coordination and adaptability that should have been impossible. "You never understood us," Martinez told him as human forces secured the flagship. "We weren't just learning to use your technology. We were learning to make it better." By dawn, Earth's orbit belonged to humanity. The Ghost Fleet had emerged fully from hiding, its hybrid vessels representing a new era of human innovation. Commander Foster stood on her bridge, watching the sunrise over a free Earth for the first time in 20 years. The price of salvation was too high. She broadcast across all frequencies, remembering Anderson's warning. "So we chose to save ourselves. Let this be a message to the Zarkak's empire. Humanity's chains are broken, and we're coming for those you still enslave." In his captured command center, Admiral Krell finally understood their fatal mistake. They had given humanity the tools to be perfect slaves, never imagining they would use those same tools to become perfect revolutionaries instead. Dr. Emily Richardson stood before the massive quantum core of the captured Zarkak's mothership, its crystalline matrices pulsing with data streams. The ship's former command center had been transformed into a makeshift research hub. Dozens of liberated scientists working to unlock the Empire's secrets. "Neural interface synchronizing," she announced, placing her hands on the bioorganic control panels. The sensation was different from anything they'd experienced before. This wasn't just accessing systems. This was diving into the collected knowledge of a 1,000-year empire. "Take it slow," Dr. Hayes cautioned, monitoring her neural patterns. "Their security protocols are like nothing we've seen in the Earth systems." Emily closed her eyes, letting her consciousness merge with the alien database. Information flooded her mind. Star maps, technological schematics, historical records, and something else, something that made her blood run cold. "We're not alone," she whispered. "The Empire, it's vast. 50 star systems, 43 enslaved species. Some have been captive for centuries." Commander Foster stepped forward, her military uniform now bearing the new insignia of Earth's liberation forces. "Show me." The holographic display erupted with star charts. Red points marked Zarkak's control centers, while blue indicated enslaved worlds. The scale of their empire was staggering. Proxima Centauri, Emily highlighted a nearby system. The Xithtal people, Insectoid race, enslaved for 300 years. They're being used for mineral extraction, just like us. Her voice caught. Their neural architecture, it's compatible with our interface technology. Thomas Walker, now chief engineer of the Liberation Fleet, studied the technical readouts. These shipping routes, the defense patterns, they never changed them. They're using the same control systems everywhere. Because it always worked before, Foster realized. Why fix what isn't broken? Their arrogance is our advantage. Lieutenant Martinez arrived with Admiral Krell in custody. His scales dulled with defeat. The prisoner might be useful. He knows things even their databases don't contain. Krell's multifaceted eyes studied them with new respect. You don't understand what you're considering. The Empire's reach is beyond your comprehension. Earth's liberation was unfortunate, but challenging the entire Empire. Impossible. Impossible. Emily smiled, still connected to the database. Like humans developing neural interfaces, like slaves building a fleet under your watch. Your Empire made 2 mistakes, Admiral. First, you taught us your technology. Second, you never imagined we could improve it. She projected another image, schematics for an advanced neural interface system. We've already adapted your quantum processors to human consciousness. Now we can do the same for any species with similar neural patterns. The Kithtul, the Vorkath, the Marine, they could all be freed. And we've learned from Earth's liberation. Foster added, the next one will be faster. Each freed world adds to our strength, our knowledge. The command center hummed with activity as teams analyzed the stolen data. Former mining engineers studied Zarkak's shipyard layouts. Military strategists mapped defense grids. Scientists unraveled technologies that the Empire had hoarded for centuries. Look at this, Dr. Hayes called out. Their FTL drive technology. It's based on crystalline matrices similar to their neural control systems. We can improve it, make it more efficient using our neural interface designs. Emily dived deeper into the database, pushing past security barriers with techniques perfected on Earth. Found something. The Proxima Centauri mining operations. They're understaffed. The Zarkaks pulled ships for the millennial celebration. Their defenses are weakened. How long to prepare a liberation fleet? Foster asked. 3 weeks, Thomas replied. We'll need to modify our neural interfaces for Kithtul biology, but the principles are the same. Their hive mind structure might actually make the process easier. Foster studied the star charts, years of military training combining with their new knowledge. 3 weeks to prepare. 1 week for the FTL jump. The Zarkaks will expect us to consolidate our position, to play defensive. They won't expect us to strike again so soon. The real question, Martinez interjected, is what happens when we free them. Earth barely held together during the occupation. Can we forge alliances with species we've never met? Emily disconnected from the database, her eyes bright with possibility. We have something the Zarkaks never gave their slaves. Hope. And we're not going as conquerors. We're going as liberators, offering them the same thing we fought for. Freedom. Admiral Krell watched them plan, his certainty shaken. The Empire had ruled through technology and fear for a millennium. But these humans, they offered something more powerful. They offered choice. The knowledge harvest had given humanity the keys to the galaxy. Now they had to decide how to use them. The Proxima Centauri liberation had taken 4 days. The Centauri Beta system fell in 3. Now, aboard the newly christened Alliance flagship, Defiance, Commander Foster watched the Kithtul representative address the First Congress of Liberated Worlds. Queen Speaker Kethrix's iridescent wings caught the light as she moved, her compound eyes reflecting the assembled delegates. The hive minds of Proxima Centauri stand with Earth, she clicked, her translator conveying the complex harmonics of her speech. Your neural interface technology, combined with our collective consciousness, has already enhanced fleet coordination beyond predicted parameters. Dr. Emily Richardson nodded, her neural implant now modified to interface with multiple species' brain patterns. The Sith-Tull hive mind architecture has improved our reaction times by 300%. What took us 20 years to achieve on Earth, we're now accomplishing in weeks. The crystalline form of Vorkath Elder Shimmer between stars floated forward. Its faceted body housing technologies the Zarkax had suppressed for centuries. Our energy weapon designs, long restricted by Imperial controls, are now integrated with human neural systems. The Empire cannot adapt to weapons guided by multiple species' thought patterns. Thomas Walker's hologram flickered as he reported from the forward shipyards. The Marines' faster-than-light calculations have revolutionized our navigation capabilities. Their aquatic consciousness views space-time currents in ways we never imagined. The Marine Ambassador, her fluid form contained in a hovering environment sphere, pulsed with bioluminescent agreement. We see the flows between stars as you see roads on land. Combined with human intuitive navigation and Sith-Tull collective processing, we can predict tactical jumps with 99.9% accuracy. Lieutenant Martinez, now General of Alliance Security, brought up a tactical display. Red markers showing Zarkax control were now outnumbered by green liberation signals. 6 systems freed in under 2 months. The Empire's response times are getting slower. They can't predict where we'll strike because they don't understand how we think. Because they never let us think together, Kithrix chittered. Each slave species was kept isolated, our unique strengths contained. Now we share those strengths freely. The images shifted to show their latest victory, a Zarkax battle fleet, trapped between Vorkath energy webs and human-guided strike forces, while Marine navigators closed their escape routes. Sith-Tull hive mind coordination had allowed them to anticipate and counter every standard Imperial tactic. They thought they broke us, Foster addressed the Congress. Instead, they created the seeds of their own destruction. Every world they enslaved, every species they suppressed, becomes another weapon in our arsenal. Dr. Hayes, linking in from his research facility on Earth, added his report. We've successfully integrated neural interface protocols with 15 different species so far. Each new addition to the network makes it stronger, more adaptable. The Empire's rigid command structure can't compete with our combined creativity. A sudden alert cut through the discussions. Admiral Krell, still their prisoner but increasingly their advisor, recognized the signal patterns. Imperial capital fleet. They're mobilizing everything they have left, heading for the Arcturus system. They think they can crush us with sheer numbers, Martinez observed. No, Emily corrected, her neural link processing the data. They're running. Arcturus holds their largest shipyards. They're abandoning their outer territories to consolidate around their core worlds. The Congress erupted in multilingual debate. The Vorkath crystals chimed with battle songs. Sith-Tull drones hummed in strategic calculation. Marine ambassadors pulsed rapid-fire navigation proposals. Foster raised her hand for silence. Let them run. Every retreating ship leaves another world ready for liberation. Every abandoned system gives us more resources, more allies. She turned to the assembled representatives. The real question is, what kind of galaxy do we build when the chains are broken? Kithrix's antennae wavered thoughtfully. We build it together, not as master and slave, but as equals, each species contributing its strengths, supporting others' weaknesses. The alliance of broken chains, shimmer between stars, crystallized the thought. Born in rebellion, forged in liberation, sustained by cooperation. Emily activated the neural network, letting each species' representatives feel the truth of their unity. Human determination, Sith-Tull coordination, Vorkath precision, Marine intuition, all flowing together into something greater than their parts. The Empire had sought to divide and conquer. Instead, they had united their victims into an unstoppable force. As the Congress planned their next liberation, Foster reflected on how far they'd come from Earth's lonely rebellion. They weren't just fighting against something anymore. They were fighting for a new future, one where every broken chain became a bridge between worlds. The Zarkak's homeworld, Crystalline Prime, gleamed like a jewel in the darkness of space. Its orbital rings bristled with defense platforms, while the remnants of the once mighty Imperial fleet formed a desperate barrier around their last stronghold. Admiral Krell, now officially a strategic advisor to the Alliance, stood on the bridge of the Defiance beside Commander Foster. "They've concentrated everything they have left," he observed, his scales shifting with complex emotions. 10,000 ships, the entire capital fleet, and still they don't understand, Foster replied, watching the Alliance armada take position. Human vessels flew in perfect formation, with Sith-Tull swarm ships. Vorkath energy cruisers pulsed in harmony with marine quantum navigators. 100 liberated species, their combined fleet moving like a single organism. Dr. Emily Richardson's voice echoed through the neural network, connecting every ship, every crew member. Final interface synchronization complete. All species reporting ready. The Zarkaks made the first move. Their fleet advanced in textbook patterns, the same tactics that had conquered a galaxy. Energy beams lanced out, meeting Vorkath crystal shields that diffracted them harmlessly into space. Now, Foster commanded. The Alliance fleet split apart like mercury, flowing through gaps the Zarkaks never saw. Human intuition guided their strikes, while Sith-Tull hive minds coordinated their movements across impossible distances. Marine navigators found paths through space-time that made their ships seem to teleport. On Crystalline Prime's surface, the Imperial High Command watched in horror as their defensive grid turned against them. Years of human experience in subverting Zarkak's technology, combined with Vorkath crystal expertise, had given the Alliance complete control. "Your empire fell the moment you taught us to use your technology," Foster broadcast on all frequencies. "Every species you enslaved learned your weaknesses. Every world you conquered became a lesson in revolution. The battle became a dance of species working in perfect harmony. Human vessels darted through debris fields, their neural-linked pilots performing maneuvers the Zarkaks had deemed impossible. Sith-Tull swarms overwhelmed Imperial targeting systems, with too many variables to track. Marine ships seemed to predict enemy movements before they happened. "Their formation is breaking," Martins reported from her tactical station. "They're starting to realize." A massive energy surge interrupted her. The Zarkak's Emperor himself had taken the field, his flagship deploying ancient weapons previously deemed too unstable for use. "If we fall," the Emperor's transmission boomed, "we take you all with us." Reality itself seemed to warp around his vessel as forbidden technologies activated, but the Alliance was ready. Dr. Hayes's voice cut through the chaos, initiating protocol unity. Every species' neural network merged into one consciousness: human creativity, Sith-Tull coordination, Vorkath precision, marine intuition, all became a single force. The combined power of 100 liberated minds focused on one goal. The Emperor's weapons backfired spectacularly. His own ship's crystal matrix, unable to handle the strain, began to collapse. The Alliance fleet pressed their advantage, not with hatred but with determination. "Surrender," Foster offered. "End this with dignity." For a moment, silence filled space. Then, one by one, the remaining Zarkak ships powered down their weapons. On Crystalline Prime, the High Command finally recognized the inevitable. The war ended not with a grand explosion, but with a simple transmission. The Zarkak's empire surrenders unconditionally to the Alliance of Broken Chains. Hours later, Foster stood in the Imperial Palace's Grand Hall, now a meeting chamber for the new Galactic Concordat. Representatives from every liberated species gathered to sign the founding charter. "We built this victory together," she addressed the assembly. "Now we build the future the same way." Queen Speaker Kithrix raised her wings in agreement, not as masters and slaves, but as equals, each species contributing, all species benefiting. Emily, her neural interface now a symbol of unity rather than control, added, The Zarkaks sought to divide us. Instead, they taught us how much stronger we are together. The charter was signed. The Galactic Concordat would be based on Earth, not as a new empire, but as a reminder. A reminder that chains could become bridges, that oppression could birth cooperation, that the greatest power came not from control, but from freely chosen unity. Admiral Krell, watching his former empire transform, finally understood. You humans, he mused, you didn't just break the chains, you forged something new from them. That's what humans do. Foster smiled. We adapt, we improve, we unite. And now, we're not doing it alone anymore. As the new dawn broke over Crystalline Prime, ships from 100 worlds flew in formation. Their neural networks hummed with shared purpose, their crews linked not by force but by choice. The age of empire had ended. The age of Concordat had begun. The stars themselves seemed brighter, as if reflecting the hope of a galaxy awakening to true freedom for the first time in a millennium. Humanity had broken their chains, but in doing so, they had bound the galaxy together with something far stronger. Unity freely given, strength freely shared, and a future they would all build together.